Hi Conway, so I'm looking at your last shot in here and more or less it's going in the right direction, I think. Now, if you're doing an anticipation, your main concern is I want to tell the story of someone, something anticipating an action. The second concern must be how do I make it so that it works with the next and the previous action? And how can I make this pose readable so that it creates the most contrast? Okay, if contrast is what I need. So in here, for instance, if I'm going down towards the anticipation, and if this is meant to be the anticipation of the monster jumping, if this pose here is meant to be that anticipation, let's see. So this is the sequence. So we are here. So we are here. We go down, and then we rotate that way. Why would you rotate parallel to the floor? Why can't you just twist this body a lot more so that the line of the shoulder is this thing, and this way you can keep the head looking at its target, and now we will know the head is looking at its target, right? Because the body is twisting a lot more. The body has a nasty twist, but the head is focused on the target, right? That's what you want to do in animation. You want to give us a message, right? So the message is, I've seen my target here, I'm nasty, I want to slash through it, and I'm anticipating. So anticipate most. And by the way, you do it this way because you're going to slash the opposite way, so you create more contrast, and as a result both poses are more readable. That would be great, right? Wouldn't it? I mean, it would be amazing, in fact, I think. So, and as a result, as you jump, you don't jump parallel to the floor. That's boring. Let's not do it, okay? We've done it many times while we were learning the basics of animation. Now you jump, you're still perhaps, it's your decision anyway, but you could be with the head aiming at the box and with the arms still in that direction, still tilted in that direction, right? Which, by the way, would mean that you would also create a line of action which is already pushing the character in that direction. And then in here, yeah, I'm not sure, perhaps I gave confusing feedback. You're still trying to contact with this foot and this foot together. I don't get it, but it's your decision. So you decide what to do. I would kind of have expected maybe to land with first these two legs and with these guys stay still up there, a bit higher up there, but I don't know, it's your decision. I just feel like if you look at these animations from the side view, it feels like the jump doesn't really have good timing, and it feels like it's landing with both sets of legs at the same time, which I know it's not, but I mean there isn't enough difference for us. There isn't enough offsetting timing for us to learn the difference. It just feels like it's landing on fours. That's it. So I think you have to be a bit braver there and decide that you want to land with two legs first, maybe at the front, and then the hind legs are landing, okay? And I feel this pose, I don't know how you made this pose. I think at this stage it would make sense to talk about your workflow, because is it possible that in order to make this breakdown, you stayed in blocking, you stayed in stepped, and you just moved the master forward? Think about it, because if you're using step to generate this breakdown, you're essentially using Maya as if Maya didn't exist. You're just moving the master there, and every limb that you have to fix it manually. Okay, but if you use the linear interpolation that Maya gives you, then you're using the interpolation, using Maya as it's supposed to be used as a tool, and then you can sculpt that interpolation. So I wonder if the reason why this pose in here doesn't tell us much is because you're doing the pose in stepped, so you are reinventing the pose every time. Again, your decision, see if that's the workflow, or maybe I'm mistaken, I don't know. Maybe it's just the way it translated, interpolated, it may happen. I will add a little bit of a moving hold on the up, on this, before this pose or after this pose, because it feels like it's just way too linear. I would add a little bit of a moving hold, not on the way forward, but on the way up. So you still translate it on the way forward, but you spend a bit more time at the top of your motion, so that as you land down a bit faster. Okay, and you create a rhythm which is not just a linear interpolation. In here, to be honest, I think you shouldn't be opening the arms just yet here. I think the bigger opening should happen in here. Right now, since you opened earlier, by the time if you look at the top view, you can barely see the two arms swinging, and in practice this is the best angle to see, but you see they're not swinging against the box. They're merely just scratching it. So if you keep your arms a lot more closed in here, and then your last pose in here, you open up like this, so we see the elbow in here, and then we see a bit of the tip there, then we will be able to see the motion a lot better, perhaps. Okay, the important thing is that we see the elbow, okay, here and here, and at that stage you probably have the box already moving, I guess, because the swing has happened. And if the hit is in this area, then there's no reason why the box should be moved from the bottom. Why is that? I mean, if you hit here, you should be moving from there as a pivot. So you should be tumbling this way, if anything. Okay, if you hit lower, then yes, but there's no reason whatsoever why you should be tilting that way. Then I have something to say about, I think, the landing itself. So this is nice as a trajectory, and this is nice as a trajectory. So if you look at this pose and the line of action, where do you expect? I think in this pose you could actually have one of the hind leg still back, but doesn't matter. But now this pose is telling you this, right? So we expect it to go down that way. Look at what it does. Poof. It almost lands, if you track this bit, it almost lands vertically down. I mean, surely you can afford to go down a bit further forward, and with this leg, which is the last one to land a bit further forward. So the whole guy will be forward, so that as it settles, it doesn't settle vertically up. You see, you're just moving it up vertically. And I suspect, but correct me if I'm wrong, that this is another pose you made from scratch using step instead of the interpolation of Maya. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems to me that how do I know this is just one new pose you made from scratch? Because you didn't even move the arm there. You see that? You just move the master up. But if you really want to do creature animation, this is a creature. This moves all over the place. You can't just move the master and call it a day. That's not how it works. Okay, so you're here to improve on this. So you need to put in your total focus on this one. You can't just. It's not a good idea really to move just the master. I'm sorry, but it's just not doing you're not doing yourself any favor in here. Okay, so because now it's going to look like a cheap animation, like someone moved the master and said done. Okay, so you remember you're doing this. Whoever will watch this animation, not just me. I mean, I watch this animation, I give feedback. So for me, I mean, I'm used to things that don't work, of course. But if a recruiter is going to see this animation, the supervisor is going to see this animation, the supervisor is going to deduce from this animation that you don't really want to animate a shot to the end. You don't, because you just, at the end, you just move the master and you're hoping that that will be fine with us. So do not send this message to anybody. You want to send a message that you want to do this thing, okay, to the end. If you don't want to do this thing to the end, then you should probably do something else, of course. Or cut the shot earlier, whichever way it's easier for you, okay? But if you're getting tired of this shot, which I totally understand, then you cut earlier. But if you're getting tired of this shot, then you should ask yourself if this is really the shot you want to do, this is really the discipline you want to follow, okay? Or maybe you need a break, I don't know, whichever way, really. So in the animation looks okay. Sometimes you take some cheap shortcuts, which are, I mean, cheap shortcuts, there's nothing wrong with them, but just moving the master up, that's not going to win it, okay? You're going to have, if a professional is going to look at this animation, they're going to think that all of a sudden you lost your motivation. And this shot is not super simple, but it's not super complex either. So if you lose your motivation on the last pose of a shot like this one, then there will be no trust to give you something more complex, because we don't know if you are going to keep the motivation needed. I mean, complex shots require weeks and weeks of work, of course. So we want to make sure that you want to get there, okay? So please do not do this kind of stuff, just move the master up and call it day. Please do not do that, because that's the one thing that leaves a bad mark on a short reel, okay? So apart from that, the beginning I think is working. It's just this anticipation here, which will be a lot stronger, and this pose as well, which could be a lot have a lot of a clearer line of action. I don't know exactly what happened in this pose in here. It looks like you just translated the master forward and all the feet forward there. We discussed it. Here you need a moving hold on the way up, and then in the landing, I think it's your choice, but I think you need to offset the legs so that the back legs, the hind legs are landing later. Maybe a couple of frames later would be enough, but just so that it doesn't feel like the guy is landing on 4. So you see, like, it feels like it's landing on 4. This reads like a contact, this reads like a contact, this reads like a contact. The next thing we know, all 4 on the floor. You need more offset there, a tiny bit more, but enough for us to tell the difference between hind legs and forward legs. I don't know, check some reference videos, see if they make sense. I mean, you won't find animals this big doing this kind of jump, okay? So perhaps that's where the problem is to begin with. But I would offset the legs, and then I would keep the arms a lot more closer on this pose, so that they swing open in the next pose, and I would move the box this way from the top, not certainly from the bottom. I just don't see a reason why it should go from the bottom. So as you see, despite my long feedback and at times my I don't know, lack of patience, I guess, it's going in the right direction. I'm still not sure how you're tracking stuff from the top view. I mean, I look at it and I just don't get it. I think you're still moving the master using the camera, using this camera here. I'm really convinced you're doing it. It's your decision again. Why do I think that? Maybe I'm wrong, okay? But why do I think that? Because I look at the body in here, and the body is rotating and is going in this direction, clearly. You see that? It's doing that. Next thing we know, it's moving. So it's moving at the beginning a lot and in that direction. Next thing we know, it's moving a little and it's moving in that direction. And then next thing we know, it moves this way. And look at the legs. Look at the legs in here. I think you're moving them in the camera, which you might if you want, but I'm just telling you it's going to be harder. And if you work this way, well, it makes it more difficult for me to leave feedback, really, because you're working in a way which makes it difficult for me to check stuff, for you to address stuff. It feels like the legs are going that way somehow, but really the next frame they're moving that way. So you're still not tracking things in 3D. This thing needs to work in 3D. If it doesn't work in 3D, it won't work at all. Okay, it's really, really important. It needs to work in 3D. It's creature animation. It needs to work in 3D. And then once it works in 3D more or less, you can cheat perhaps, okay? But right now, it needs to work in 3D. And if I look at the top view, your master is going a bit all over the place. It's going right, down, left to the side, and then left again, down, and then even more to the left. So it's going that way, and then lands, and then stays there and moves a bit to the right, and then stays there too. So you're doing very erratic motion there from the top view. Your animation should work from the top view. It should work in 3D, okay? So apart from that, it works more or less. I think it's getting there. I mean, I would even want to tell you, go on and spline the first part. I think this first part could already be splined until, I don't know, until frame, say, 41 or so. But I am afraid that if you spline that, you will spend time splining it, and then you will forget to track in 3D the rest of the shot. But it's your decision again. One thing about this motion is that I'm still tracking this guy here, so the body is going down this way and then it turns this way, so that's the arc right now, and then it doesn't, look at that, the body doesn't take part anymore in the motion, it's just frozen. Look at the top view. We had this nice motion you set up for us, and then all of a sudden you forgot about it and the body is not doing anything anymore while the top of the body is swinging wildly about. I mean, what I would imagine with this kind of swing in here, I would definitely imagine the chest to the front part, the root, to rotate a bit counterclockwise as well, and instead there's nothing there. So, and then you do this crazy rotation to the right. So, sorry, not rotation. You do this rotation to the let's say clockwise from the top view, and you're translating more to the right, and then you come back. Why would you translate? Yeah, no, I get it, sorry. So you're translating to the right because you want to lift this foot, I guess. Yes, okay. So sorry about that. So yeah, I don't know, if you are rotating this much and this arm is swinging that much, it's going to carry the weight forward. So in the next pose I would expect the bodies to be still forward and then to settle where it's settling in here. So that's how I will fix it. But that's minor stuff. The biggest stuff is the stuff we discussed earlier on. But you see that you have the tendency to forget that this guy moves as a whole. I mean, it's an organism that moves, and every now and then you just freeze the control and until you remember about it. Okay, so, and I think in here it might be because you're doing poses using stepped. Now stepped is an excellent way to playback blocking, but not a great way in my opinion to build breakdowns. Okay, so when I animate, I certainly play back the animation at first with stepped just to see if the poses are nice looking, but when I do the posing, I don't do the posing in stepped. I just find it requires a lot of attention and work and a lot of knowledge I don't have about the character perhaps. So I find that if I do the key poses and then I use the interpolation to build the breakdowns and other poses, it's better for me. I wouldn't play back the animation. I would not press play and see, oh, does it look nice as animation? I wouldn't do it for a while, but I would certainly use the interpolations to do the poses, which is probably what you're not doing here. I'm not sure how the way you work it, but it seems like you're forgetting every now and then. You're forgetting to move the root, you're forgetting that the root is part of the motion, and then all of a sudden you remember about the root, like in this last pose when you go up, then you forget about everything else. So nothing else moves, it's just the root that moves up. I don't know what motivates these choices, but I can tell you they're not good choices as far as animation is concerned. Okay, they're just making your life more difficult. If this were a limited animation, yeah, by all means you could play these tricks, I suppose, in some instances. But this being creature animation, you can't just freeze a character that way. That doesn't look good. Okay, that's one thing. It's very difficult to do in creature animation. You cannot freeze the character like total 3D freeze. I don't think that's possible. So that's it. It's on the right track. I know, despite what I'm saying, it's on the right track. But you just are being a bit. You just need a bit more attention, I think. At times, because some stuff I just don't think it's a technical issue. I think it's just you forgetting it. So just keep a closer eye on it. Then of course it's the beginning, and of course you will do a lot of mistakes. Okay, but we discussed tracking things in 3D at length now, and if you think of it, I think it's time for you to write down a list. I mean, I don't know how you work, but me and any animator I've seen, notes. Okay, notes, because we forget stuff. So, and you have you have seen the feedback, you have so much stuff to track, so you will need notes. So track down, write down, okay, I need to track the stuff in 3D, I need to track the feet, do they move in 3D, I need to track the root, does it move in 3D, I need to track the chest, does it move in 3D, did I track the arcs of the arms? So track, you need to track stuff. Okay, there's so much stuff to do and it's very easy to forget. Track your stuff, take notes and go through them methodically and have fun. Bye bye.